All of Italy, a country of 60 million people, is now effectively a red zone. On Monday evening, Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte announced that the measures that had just been put in place on Sunday morning in the Lombardy region and 14 other provinces, an area with a population of around 16 million people, would be extended to the entire country. This means that schools and universities will be closed until at least the 3rd of April. All public and private sporting events canceled. All public gatherings banned. Only absolutely necessary travel between cities and provinces will be allowed.
Well, in the words of Qantas boss Alan Joyce, for the aviation industry during the coronavirus crisis, it will be the survival of the fittest. Now, after a steep decline in passenger demand, which has emptied terminals, Qantas has cut its capacity by almost a quarter for the next 6 months. It means a total of 38 aircraft will be grounded across the Qantas group, that's Jetstar and Qantas. That will leave 2,000 staff surplus with nothing to do. Passengers who have booked now grounded aircraft will be contacted and provided with alternative flights. The Qantas CEO says the airline is doing its best to avoid redundancies, but there are no guarantees.
Cruise ship carrying about 2,000 people to dock after it was barred by Malaysia and Thailand over coronavirus fears, officials said Monday. The Costa Fortuna was turned away from the Thai holiday island of Phuket and the Malaysian state of Penang in recent days, despite having no suspected virus cases among its passengers and crew. But the ship, carrying dozens of people from Italy, which has been hard hit by the virus, will be allowed to dock at its home port of Singapore Tuesday as scheduled. The Singapore's Port Authority and Tourism Board said a doctor on board will check passengers and crew before they disembark, and everyone will undergo temperature screenings before entering Singapore.
لیدلی یو دوه انفجار نه مجاره گئی قرار کنه
These senators are asking the Supreme Court to define how much power the president has. Last month, President Rodrigo Duterte announced the termination of the 21-year agreement which allowed U.S. troops entry for joint training exercises. This comes after the U.S. canceled the visa of his former police chief, now Senator Rolando De La Rosa. That was because of his involvement in Duterte's war on the illegal drugs trade. Senators are asking for the Supreme Court to rule whether Duterte can terminate any international treaty approved by the Senate.
We're simply asserting the power of the Senate. And we have already infused in those treaties and agreements that any abrogation or any termination must pass through the Senate.
A search has been conducted for 5 truck drivers whose trucks were set alight in the early hours of this morning near Colenso in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands. The trucks were looted before being torched allegedly by people protesting against the Ladysmith mayor. Protesters say they want the mayor, Vincent Madlala, to step down. Madlala is being accused of corruption and involvement in taxi wars. Protests have flared up in Ladysmith in the past couple of months, affecting businesses, schooling and the delivery of services.
Saudi Arabia is making good on its promise to slash crude rates and now plans to boost oil production starting next month. Now, this move is aimed at grabbing the market share from Russia after Moscow refused to cooperate with OPEC on cutting oil production. Saudi Arabia's decision to ramp up production is sending shockwaves through the oil markets. But just how long can the kingdom maintain this flow, and can other OPEC producing countries step in? Well, for that, we go to RT correspondent Saya Tavenger. Saya, what do you got for us?
Farron, there's so many ways to describe the severity of what's happening on oil markets, as there are multiple crises unfolding at the same time. But let me give our viewers a quick recap of what happened at last week's OPEC meeting. Now, Saudi Arabia requested OPEC members collectively to cut their oil production by 1 million barrels per day, with OPEC ally Russia making the most cut, around 500,000 barrels a day.
Moving on to other stories now. North Korea released pictures of Monday's ballistic missile test, which experts identify as super large multiple rocket launchers. 2 of the 3 were successful, while the third seems to have misfired.
North Korea's state-run Korean Central News Agency reported Tuesday that its leader Kim Jong-un supervised Monday's artillery strike drills to inspect his forces' sudden counterattack capability. It reported Kim was very satisfied with the firing, but the report didn't specify which type of projectiles it had fired the previous day. An expert in South Korea says they appear to be from a super-large multiple rocket launcher, the same type that was fired last Monday using transporter erector launchers. This is the 6th time since last year the North has fired from large rocket launchers of this kind.
So back in November, Prince Andrew said that he was, quote, willing to help any appropriate law enforcement agency with their investigations into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. But now the prince has completely shut the door, forcing the New York Attorney General to look at other options. And to add another slap to Epstein victims, a federal judge in New York denied requests by a reporter and the Miami Herald denied reports by, the reporter and the Miami Herald to add another slap again to those victims by not unleashing documents in the Epstein case from alleged groomer Ghislaine Maxwell that are believed to contain details about some pretty bad things.